Hello everyone. Well, just a bit of an update on the club's injury list. The AFL requires all the clubs to put out their injury lists around this time every week. And they actually put a bit of a sternly worded memo out to ensure clubs are transparent with it. I think this was a bit of a dig at Geelong, who last week put out an injury list with about 12 or 13 players on it, and it had TBC next to basically every player. To be confirmed, I think that means, or unknown, or indefinite, and things like this, which is kind of, being a bit cheeky. I don't know why clubs aren't honest with this sort of stuff. I mean, if you're injured, you're injured. What's the point lying about it? No one cares. If you're injured, well, just let us know. But anyway, the Bombers have done the right thing and we've released our injury list. But what I wanted to talk about was actually one of the players that's not on our playing list, but who got injured, and it might have deep relevance for the Bombers, and that's the Coburg ruckman, Cooper Keogh. Cooper Keogh, along with Braden Crosley, are two of the mature age ruckmen that are running around at the moment in the level below the AFL that the Bombers are going to be looking at, or I'm sure have actually are considering. I would assume they're certainly considering, given that we need another ruckman, given our ruck stocks have been depleted due to injury. And Braden Crosley, who I mentioned in a previous video, is probably the one who is most people know about, given that he played in last year's grand final for Southport. Cooper Keogh plays for Coburg. He's 26 years old and is getting better all the time. He's sort of coming into the peak of his career and is playing better now than perhaps what his draft prospects initially were. So he is definitely on Essendon's radar. And unfortunately, he's injured and out for the year. He's had a Lisfranc injury to his left foot. So there seems to be these foot injuries to Essendon ruckman, or, potential Essendon ruckman. He suffered the injury during Sunday's match against Carlton at the Coburg City Oval, and we were looking at him as someone to reinforce our ruck stocks, which are pretty thin as they are. He's regarded as a competitive animal. He's about 200 centimetres. He's a former basketballer, and unfortunately he's going to need surgery and he's out for the year. So it's frustrating for, obviously, him, but it also means that Bombers now are not going to pick this player, you wouldn't think, given that, that whole idea of picking him was really to reinforce the ruck stocks for this year, right? We're not going to pick them for next year. So that brings Braden Crosley back into the mix. There's also another younger ruckman, Alex Van Wyck, who's 20 years old and 203 centimetres and looks, a physically imposing player. He's a decent mark, reasonable skills, these sort of things. But he is 20 years old, so I guess the problem with picking a 20-year-old ruckman is that why not just go for Vigo Vicentini if that's the case? I think the whole idea is that we want a ready-made ruckman, and the two that were standing out were Braden Crosley and Cooper Keogh. And with Keogh out now, that's sort of the option. I think that was, from all the things you hear, that was kind of the one I think Essendon was perhaps leaning towards, which they're not going to be able to do now. So, it does open the option of who else we're going to pick. So I really don't know. I think with the 3 picks in the draft, we're probably going to go for one ruckman. We'll probably go for a small forward and maybe a running defender. There's a good small forward for Richmond, Massimo Rasso. And he's a very exciting young player, someone that could complement Kako down there. He's really, really small, but he can be used up the ground a bit. He's quick and mobile. It just depends whether another club, I think North Melbourne might sort of be looking for a player like that down there, so North might pick him before us. But I reckon we'll be looking at a small forward, a ruckman, and a running defender. He's only like 170 centimetres, but he is able to read the play well. He's good at ground level and those sort of things. So I think that's probably the way the Bombers are going to go. We're probably going to go with a small forward now. And probably just the best available ruckman we can find. But look, we'll see. We are not far away now, only 3 weeks away from the mid-season draft. So just looking at the rest of the injury list, and look, it's not too bad, to be perfectly honest. Gresham is only going to miss 1 week with an abductor. He'll be back, so that's not a long-term injury. Darcy Parish has been listed as 1 week. I mentioned that he is a second half of the season prospect, the forgotten player. Let's hope he can get back out there. He will be playing in the reserves for a couple of weeks when he's back. So not this week, but it looks like from next week after. That is a calf injury that he's coming back from. His back isn't listed as an issue, so hopefully he's over his back problems. And once he plays a couple of games in the reserves, he will be a valuable member of our team. We need him back badly as that extra bit of class in the midfield. Jordan Ridley is going to miss 8 weeks. That is a bad one. That is a bad one. We weren't thinking that this was going to be good news, but I was hoping it would be, 3 to 4 weeks. But an 8-week injury is a long-term injury, and that puts him out for, half of the rest of the year, maybe even a little bit more than that. So that does open the door for Lewis Hayes, though, not just for 1 or 2 weeks. And, with every bit of negative news, there comes opportunity, and that's the way I look at it. And Lewis Hayes now has an opportunity to solidify his spot in the side, rather than just, Ridley's out for a week for whatever, and Hayes comes in and then he comes out again. Well, now it's there for the taking, right? This position is there for the taking. And Lewis Hayes, hopefully he can, I'm not expecting too much in his first game, but he now has 2 months to really establish himself as an AFL player and, let's be honest, fast-track his development. You can't fast-track development any better than playing in the senior team. Harrison Jones is to be confirmed. We're not sure with that ankle injury. He has avoided surgery, so that's good news. He showed a picture of his ankle on the interwebs, and it looks pretty nasty. I've done an ankle injury before. It's the most painful thing I've ever done. It seems to go to your head, and you feel lightheaded when it's so painful. That's what I noticed when I did my ankle. You just get this pain that seems to go through your head, and you feel lightheaded, like you're about to faint almost. It's just extraordinarily painful. And then we've got the 3 season-ending injuries, of course, to Draper, Bryan, and Edwards. And in other news, Jye Caldwell is not on the injury list, and it is news that he's not on the injury list because it was suspected that his return date was this week against the Sydney Swans. That was what we were told. And he has officially not been listed as an injured player. So he will be a valuable addition to our side this week. He was in sensational form. His game against Hawthorn in the first game of the year was one of the best individual games that a player has played this year. He will help us immensely, especially at the coalface against the Sydney Swans. So good news that Jye Caldwell is back. He joins Guelphy, Nick Cox and Angus Clark, who all got through the VFL game on the weekend and are not listed as injured players. So Jye Caldwell officially not injured and back this week. So really, apart from the 3 players who are out for the season, who we're going to replace in the mid-season draft, at least temporarily replace, it's only really Ridley. That's only really Ridley. So this will be a good opportunity for Lewis Hayes. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments what you think of this. Unfortunate news about Cooper Keogh. It takes that draft prospect out of the equation for Essendon, I believe. I'm going to leave it there. Have a great day, everybody. And as always, go Bombers.
They don't fear, they all try their best, but they can't get near as the Bombers fly.